I was going to come out one last time today, uh, but you know, yeah, back in the day, when I was like trying to tell my wife, I was a young teenager then. I was only like 18, and everybody, young boys, young girls out there, you know, for some reason or another, sometimes in school or wherever you may be, you know, sometimes you run into people you don't plan on. Uh, like I tried to tell my wife many times over the years, I never put myself in a situation with any girls at school. Didn't go to any proms. Didn't do anything. It's my choice. But and a large part of that has to do with not really having any girls in the class that I was usually in. The ones that were didn't really talk to me. Didn't really want nothing to do with me for whatever reason. Um, but like I said, the few opportunities that have come my way, whether it be in recent years, ones that my wife come up with, or ones that's come to me out on Facebook that I didn't know at all, for whatever reason, these things happen. And just like my friends did me, my wife's friends did her the same way. And I really don't consider, Roxanne, talking to you, I don't consider you as an ex. I do, however, like I said, I blame Tom Pride for this because, and he didn't mean any harm by it, but I told my wife just a while ago, I said I would have went back in the back and sat back there in the farthest chair I could find. But he saw me and he knew me back then that I wasn't with nobody. And he just thought you'd be a nice, neat little deal. He didn't know, just like I didn't know hardly anything about you. He knew what he saw in front of him. He just thought I'd be a nice catch for somebody back then that was single. And I always, like I said, I always thought of you in a good way. I always thought you had a certain thing about you that just, like all people do, when they find something they like, if there's something there, the outside kind of attracts you, a little bit. Red hair or whatever color your hair was, it's kind of reddish, brownish looking. And like I said, yeah, I at the time, and I'll shorten some of this up, but basically, yeah, at the time when you had a lot going on and you had your stuff you were dealing with, I don't know what family issues you might have been going through. Lord knows at the house, I went through my fair share of some later on as I got a little bit older. Eventually, I moved out. I moved in an apartment over here in Decatur, Tennessee, and I'm still renting one now in a little uh, slightly different than one I was at originally, but I'm still in Decatur. Um, but no, I was just trying to explain. Yeah, I was, a young kid then. I'm 37 now. Feelings can get hurt, as we all know, on purpose, by accident. It happens. You know, I know yours wasn't intended to hurt me. You never said anything in a bad way to me. What little interaction we had was good. I want everybody know that. My wife know that. It wasn't all bad. It's just probably bad timing. You know, like I said, Tom Pride meant well. I hear he's not doing good health wise, you know, and stuff. And, you know, his son used to work over at the pig and everything. But now I always kind of had, just like when everybody's seen Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and all them youngins back in, every time you watch one of these videos, you kind of had your own little crush on somebody on TV or type thing. Well, you know, I kind of felt in some way, in a nice way, I felt that about you at the time. And so, you know, initially when I first met you, you know, I asked you, you know, come out and I said, hey, would you be all right with, you know, would you be okay with going to prom with me? And I didn't, you know, I wasn't saying, hey, I knew she was going to take it or do anything with it, but I meant that you might give it a shot. I didn't know. But when you said no, no was no. You know, to an 18-year-old boy, that's a little hard to take sometimes. I didn't cry, as you know, but over the years, after I graduated, it hit me pretty hard. And, you know, and there for a while, I had feelings, you know, like all of us do. We get attached to somebody, like my wife and her bestie, oh, up there in Ohio, Brittany Benner. You know, we all follow somebody. We all like somebody, whether they know it or not. You know, we find somebody we like. Whether we meet them at school or at work, whatever. You know, we always find somebody that we always look back on and we say, man, you know, I wish I could have maybe gotten to know that person. Maybe she would like me better if some of my friends wasn't around, or, you know, and trying to kind of make me look bad or kind of make me feel, you know, a certain way, you know. And I'm 37 now, gonna be 38 in June 6th, on June 6th. And you know, I met you that one brief time, a few years back. Yeah, like I said before, I'll say this again real briefly. We had a brief interaction. We exchanged numbers, and I commented on one of your pictures. I left a nice compliment. I said something at that time, and the guy wanted to kind of give me crap over it, and he put a comment. I didn't like it, so I said something back to him, you know, and it kind of upset you a little, and you know, it kind of left a sore spot there. But you know, anyway, I, you know, I still think you look practically the same as you did then. You know, you can honestly tell there's a little difference as they all get older, but you still look good. You look like you're doing okay. I don't know. Like I said, I generally don't come out and do you know, anything resorting to one person, but you know, me and my wife have had our own issues with their own families, and they didn't like that. You know, we got married, and then my wife got married early. A lot of it was peer pressure from her side of the family, and I would have waited a year or whatever, but you know, her family kind of made their own mind up. I knew there was something there. You know, my wife ain't like most people. You know, they don't just go with the flow with me. You know, she's a lot like me in a lot of ways. I mean, we all, like I said, have our own issues and things, but I felt like my wife was kind of like, you know, somebody kind of like my own dad was. You could talk to him about things, and you could sit down and reasonably talk them out, and it wasn't repeated 1,000 times over, and the same thing over and over. You talked about it, and yeah, in the very beginning, my wife was. It took her a while to get used to how her family was going to treat me and her as a married couple, and how it was going to be. I was a little bit quick on the button with, figuring them out, sort of thing. And my wife wanted to talk good about them and tell me all the good things, and that they liked my kind of music and all that good stuff. And again, it's all appreciated, but they just didn't go that way. They all got older. They all had kids. Everybody that was in their family had kids. It was like 30 or 40 people. Nobody came up to me hardly, so I didn't feel the need to go up to all of them and say, "Hey, my name's Derrick," and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to push myself on people. And that's the last thing I want to do to anybody. But, but what I was saying earlier, my wife and I had made a Facebook shortly after my dad passed away, had a heart attack at work, and I wish he was still here. But, my wife went to one of these Hawassi things, and back then they told her, said, "Hey, this whole Facebook thing would be a nice, great idea to get on." And she did what any normal person would do, right? I can't hold that against her. She went for what she knew from her days of going to school. She knew, or work, or whatever she did, it don't matter. The point is, she went after what she thought she knew. And she did what most people do, which is tell, "Hey, I got married. I did this. I did that." Some people like it. Some people don't, as we know. And it just, combined with they didn't really support all that really that much, and combined that they were, out of state, couldn't drive, couldn't get around much. They could get around on the street wherever they were at, wherever they were going on a daily basis. But that was the extent of it. I've since I've graduated, I've made a few of my old friends off and on a couple of times many years ago, a few years back. And, I let them all go because they all had stuff. They're all married. And they have kids. They have family up their butt and everything else. And I just don't fit in that crowd. I don't like to just have a friend around, or my wife don't want anything like that. Because like I said, I've been in those situations. I've worked. I've had 3 jobs since you last talked. I had 2 of them I'd done prior, but the last job I had since talking to you was up here at Hardee's for 5 years. I cleaned for them, did the parking lot, cleaned out the ice, filled the ice machines up, swept, mopped. I haven't worked in almost a year and a half now because I just can't seem to trust the management and people over me. They do things behind my back without me having any say in it. When this virus stuff happened, kind of set everybody back a little bit. And they laid me off without talking to me first, and without me knowing about it. And they just out of the blue texted me, said, "Hey, we just decided to lay you off." And I'm going to work part time due to I get SSI anyway, and I'm on my wife's on food stamps. But yeah, I never, I sat back and last night just kind of going through, and I got to thinking. Well, I looked up the name Roxanne, and I thought, well, I didn't see you pop up that way, and so I put Roxy because some people have a name Roxy too. So I put that in there, and I sent you a friend request in a message letting you know it was me. Even though it's under my wife's name, we share her Facebook. We don't uh, have to anymore, but we just have basic phones, text and call. We don't do those modern phones or anything. But anyway, so we'd had a couple of times where we got on there. My wife, by happenstance, run into this one that she was out there posting her, reborn doll collection that she collects now. At the time when she first met me, she didn't do it. It was a thing that a neighbor started, and she liked it, and she now collects them, and she's been doing it ever since that neighbor passed away. And it gives her something to do. Like she said and I've said, most people 99% of the time don't take Facebook seriously or any social media seriously. And I got to really thinking about, I've had that one come out of nowhere on my behalf that I didn't know it was coming. And the one that I talked about in the first video a little bit, but she came out of nowhere, and like I said, it looked like $1,000,000 and everything else. And everybody was having a little hissy fit over it, and it can't be, this ain't real, and yada yada, and all that stuff. And anyway, we got in that, and originally, like I said, it was supposed to be 2 weeks, and everything went the way I hoped, and my wife had hoped at the time. We was going to have her and her best friend, and she known from church or whatever. She had met somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember now, but they were African Americans, and I have nothing against color, but we tried or religion or anything really. I just go with the flow. But so I tried that out. Like I said, she was trying to basically, this Carrie Walker woman tried to help her best friend, by going and doing this job thing that ended up getting her in a mess. And I was trying to be nice and everything and help her for the 2 weeks, the little bit when I had a check coming in and we had a little bit been sent out by our payee. I was nice enough to say, hey, I don't mind, sharing a little bit. My wife was cool with it. And at the time, if it would have been like that, and 2 weeks came and she'd come, then it wouldn't have been, wouldn't have had no trouble. She was going to go back and get her car worked on and then come up here or whatever, or get a plane or whatever it took to get up here. Oh, yeah, I was right. She was going to get a plane ticket and come up this way, because she didn't have her round trip ticket. She only had it for one way. If everything went right, she was going to leave her car sitting, come up, airplane up here, and we was going to have, help her friend out and get her situated with, she'd had surgery and was needing some treatments, I guess chemo or whatever, chemo treatments or something, or some kind of treatment. So anyway, her friend ended up passing away, and she never made it up here. I'd paid for several things. I paid for that bus. It got pulled over. Then me and my wife felt sorry for her, and we were trying to help her, and we helped her out with a few other things, and many other times I paid for taxis and different things, and it just seemed like everybody I tried to help get her up here, they something would happen. So we ran out of patience, and about 9 months in, or 8 or 7 months, whatever it was, we ran out of patience, and I like I said, I was in, and my wife was like in about a little over $3,000 in total that we spent trying to help her. Even her bestie tried to help her in selling one of her rings that she had. She had something else she tried to help pawn or something, even in the condition she was in. But anyway, So we got done with that, and I got paid back. My wife got paid back in full with the stimulus checks that came out um, due to the COVID-19 stuff. And so anyway, I went out and I bought my wife Jessica a ring previous at the pawn shop, and it was okay. It was a lot better ring than most men get their wives. You know what I mean? Uh, you know, the first time I met somebody off there, I didn't have about 20 something dollars to my name, and I bought somebody one of them fake rings. But at the time I, I was working I was getting some money from our payee, so I was buying something and putting it back and paying on it when I could. We used to get like 50 a piece or something like that. And so I would, Steve let me pay on it over at the pawn shop, and I went a little over the time, but I told him, I had to get some stuff, and he understood, so he let me keep paying on it. So I had that for the longest time for her as a ring, and it was good. Like I said, it wasn't the worst ring in the world, but the diamonds on it wasn't real on it all the way. So when this came, I knew I had, uh, this opportunity to get my wife a ring, a pretty good one. It wasn't the most expensive, but it was definitely better than the one I had. And this one's all the way real. And so I bought her a 10-carat gold ring, and this guy, he looked at me and my wife. He thought it was crazy when I said, "Hey, I like two." Like I said, hers is almost similar to this one I'm fixing to put on here in a minute, but they were really similar. They were pretty right next to each other. And I thought, hey, me and my wife had made this plan before we went over there, and I took Seth there, by the way. And I couldn't get it cashed at the customer service. They had a bank over there, and the guy was like, over at the bank, he's like, "Well, I'm gonna take $80 out of both of them." I said, "Go out ahead." My lord, we had over $2,000. It was like 2,800. Yeah, that's what it was. $2,800. I said, "Go ahead, don't matter." So anyway, went over there, and I had 2 hours to get all this done. So I went over there, went to the jewelry department, and bought my wife one. And then, of course, the guy's like, "You want to buy two?" And I was like, we didn't want to tell him, because it was like, I was like, "Come on, man." In my mind, I was like, "Come on, man, just go with the flow." Thinking in my mind, I was like, "Oh, come on." And he went ahead, but we didn't end up having to tell him. But we was going to do something nice. And so, anyway, we had gotten on the internet sometime after I gave up my family, and she pretty well gave hers up, and we've been, through some stuff. Even had a woman over here last year, even as of last year, putting on a show in front of my wife, acting all good to her, and then coming in here and acting like a total different idiot in front of me, putting on a show, exact opposite. And anyway, she didn't end up lasting long. So, just due to her past, anyway, is checkered. We'll just leave it at that. But anyway, so I came up, which, by the way, that's where my wife's old ring went to. And at the time, we wanted it back, but I think my wife's pretty content with the one. The one it was weird because like February. Well, we met the one last year in January. It was toward the end of January. We were going into getting close to going into February. And early February, we had fallen out with this person. We tried to take her in, tried to give her a place. My wife felt bad. This person been out there basically walking the streets and came up. Well, she was out there walking due to the fact that supposedly these girlfriends or whatever you want to call them was, you know, uh, saying they were going to do something, a party or something other. And anyway, she fell for it, and supposedly she walked, a good 10 miles or whatever it was from Shaw's all the way up here. And when she was on her way to walking up here, this other friend of my wife's that she'd met, dated for a short time before she met me, saw her on the side of the road. She looked like I said, those million buck women on the outside. They get that outside. And she, I guess had met him before and went to school with him or knew him from somewhere. Anyway, he picks her up, lets her get in his truck, and he takes her to his house, his apartment, and lo and behold, he texts my wife this same night and asks her to come up there and all this stuff and come up there and visit him. Well, this person's, telling my wife, oh, I met you off Facebook, yada, 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 and all this stuff. And the next thing I know, I get a call and didn't recognize the number, but I answered it because it had a, 423. And I figured it might have been my wife because she's the one who called me. And so I said, hello. She says, she tells me what's going on and the whole 9 yards. And she didn't know her from nowhere hardly, except for the fact that she knew she'd had her on Facebook before. And she had, like a lot of these people do, they have, 4,000 or 5,000 people on their list. And she happened to be one of those 4,000 something people that she had on there from her old Facebook. And so I don't know. She sweet talked my wife. She was good to my wife then. And says my wife calls me and says, "Hey, something to this effect." She says basically that I think I found something, or and so at that point we'd been looking a little bit, since we lost that one that I brought up earlier, and just kind of hoped that something would come along. So anyway, this come along, and at first we thought it was somebody that didn't have nothing, that was actually homeless. She had said something about being homeless, and my wife felt bad, like all people would, And so she basically told my wife what turned out to be a big lie. Basically, she had been living. The true story is she told us after to come up here. True story is she came up from she had been living with her parents, and she had just recently decided she just wanted to move out and do her own thing or whatever. She was 30 then. She'd be 31 now. But at the time we thought she was just by herself. We didn't think she had any kids or any of that stuff. I didn't know about the friend stuff because everybody usually has more than I do. I don't have anybody, of course. But anyway, so we get on my wife's like, hey, and this is before we knew that we couldn't do it and all that stuff, our landlord and stuff anyway. So we let her stay up here, and first 2 nights, man, it went good. Except for the fact she slept those 2 days. But I found out later why. But in general sense, it didn't make much sense, since the only thing that she would do is want her kids around her the whole time. And when she got a break, which was very minimal, I think it was like for overnight, her ex they weren't getting along so well. with just the kid portion of the thing. They were trying to be girlfriend, boyfriend, or friends, or whatever. It doesn't matter. They're trying to kind of have some type of relationship. Instead of worrying about the kids, and at least one of the kids or whoever's kid he popped out, instead of them worrying about that and letting that guy see the child in question, she was making all these things. I don't know whether they were true or not, but she was saying a whole bunch of stuff about how she'd been, messed with, and oh, he did this or that, and then she did drugs for a while, and the whole 9 yards. I mean, it's a whole bunch of stuff. And she kept bringing all this up, and it was more than I could take. At least with and eventually we had to make her leave, and she threw one of the biggest fits I've ever seen in my life. But since then, we've had people come out the doors and want to talk, and put on for my wife and different things, and they'll say, "Oh, I want to talk. Oh, yeah, I want this, I want that." That they never come up to our driveway. They never come up to the door, and like me and my wife talked about, you can't force anybody. Well, so I got to thinking, and I seen where you was on there, and I said, no, it's one person that I've kind of always had feelings for, and I've never really gotten a chance to just meet her outside of school, for more than a minute or something, or for a class. When I'm doing work, I don't talk very much. So I was thinking, well, you might, want to, if you've got the time, and if you're not too busy, or you can work it into your schedule and would like to, get to know us and stuff, and everything. There was this thing, it's called a unicorn. And basically, in the way that, not the horse, but the other way is it's basically a woman who's bi and who likes to be with a married couple and have a relationship with them. And so we had bought this ring, which I went over. I was going to show it on there, so you knew. But yeah, we was going to give that, signifying that we were, one big, basically in our own way, married couple, without having to go to the extent of going and, we know we can't go and do the marriage thing or anything at the courthouse, but we could have our own little thing, do it our own way and go out, kind of maybe go somewhere a little special, and do it later. But, we could start out getting to know everything and seeing what's in your circle, family, or if you've got anybody that can actually talk to somebody, give us a little time and say hello, But we just thought, hey, it might be something neat for somebody. We tried many people on here that we didn't know, and tried looking around Tennessee and everything else. So far, everybody just thinks it's a joke or whatever, but yeah, I mean, that's still, and hopefully, hopefully you're, as good as you look, on the inside, and hopefully, we can get to know that part of you, and that I know you're pretty sweet, but I don't know it is in the long term. I haven't been around you enough to say, hey, I know a lot about her, but I'd like to hope that we get there. If you see this video or something, and you know, if you, you know, I can tell you still got the same last name as you did 20, well, Lord, almost 20 years ago now, 19 years ago. So apparently you haven't gotten married. If you had, I would think you'd update it. But if you're free, basically what I'm saying, if you're freed up, you don't have a whole lot in your way and everything's better, and you would like something like this, just give us a holler. You can get a hold of us on YouTube. You can go to Derrick Layman. We usually use my YouTube. It's got my old pictures on it. Yeah, like I told my wife, all I had of you was an old picture in a yearbook. The letters that I had were from somebody else that I wrote, and she had sent her letters and things to me. But I generally don't write letters to nobody. So, but no, I had one time I called Meigs County High School one time, and my friend was just sitting there, and I was telling him, I said, John, I still had feelings for you back then. And and it was just right after school, and I was like, man, I really would like to have gotten to know her. And had I had gotten, and went the year I could have went, I would have graduated with you. Whether you go to those functions or not, I don't know. I ain't even went to mine. But, but anyway, yeah, so basically, this is a long shot. No, I never guarantee anything, but I know you always treated me nice. You give me candy a time or two, and we had a few talks. One time you came up, like I said on the old video, you came up on your own and went in there and we sat down and talked a little bit and hung out for a minute. For a while, it was about an hour. That's probably about an hour because the class lasts about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. I can't remember now. It's been a while. But I know we didn't really get to talk. I knew that you, like I said, was going through some stuff. And you probably just being nice. You got to think I was only 18 then. 37 now. Things are, you view them in a different way. Maybe it's for the best. Maybe he's just looking out for me. Tom Pride probably didn't know no better. He just thought you'd be a nice deal for somebody at the time that didn't have nothing. He probably knew I didn't get around a lot of people, even though I didn't really tell him a lot. But no, we had good. Watched that Sandlot movie, and it was pretty cool when he brought that in. Everybody had a kick out of that one part, but yeah, if you was to see this and want to get a hold of us on my wife's Facebook, I sent you a request and a message. Like I said, we share, but if you want to, holler at us and we'll see where it goes. And at least try to get to know you if you want to do that. See how we do. And like I said, I wanted to make mention. I know I told you I used to watch wrestling and all that stuff. I don't like it as much as I used to. I don't think you was a big fan of it, but again, you got to consider we was all young then. We didn't get to talk about what we liked on TV or music-wise or anything. But we like a little bit of everything. Back through the Elvis decade through, mid-2000s on up to that point. Some of it, like country, classic rock, a little bit of everything. 80s, 90s stuff, pop. So just about anything. A little bit of metal, some of that stuff is okay. Every once in a while, it'll be something I like, but we like to go out, go shopping, go to the park, go to the fair. Uh, like I said, my wife, she'll watch LMN movie channel sometimes. She'll watch stuff from back when she was a kid. We watched a Walker Texas Ranger yesterday and stuff like that. Some old stuff from when I was a kid. Um, but sometimes we'll watch game shows. Sometimes she'll watch a TV talk show once in a while. I don't know what you like, uh, but you know, we don't do much of anything out in the water like fishing or we don't, hunt or anything. Uh, but yeah, we've been married to 10 years. So we're just looking to add an extra a person, one extra person and see. And I thought, well, maybe you might be interested. It's been a while. You've probably been through some ups and downs, but maybe everything's somewhat better than it was, and maybe you might be up for something like this. Like I said, we was hoping to get moved out of this place where we're at right now. Everything's a little hectic. Uh, the driveway's a little bit of a mess. It's kind of been washed out with all the rain and and stuff. Throat's a little dry. But anyway, yeah. So if he is able to, you know, do this, we'd really appreciate it, and and everything. So whatever if you decide that you don't, it's okay. Just an idea, an offer. But because I was sitting here, because I told my wife, I said there ain't many people that I run into over the years. I had one or two I went to church with. And then I had one take us to the park, but like I said, all of them people, they had all their stuff, going on, and just ultimately it didn't work, because they were already taken up, had things going. So, man, like I said, I know a little bit, don't know a lot, but if you still available, uh, want anything of this offer or anything, if you like it, let us know. We'll see you later. Bye.